Rpsm Talks.
Rpsm Talks?
Rpsm Talks.
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 Welcome, everybody, and this is Rpsm Talks, brought to you by Regent Park School of Music. Regent Park School of Music is a community music school providing lessons to both the Regent Park and Jane and Fitch communities for over 20 years by removing financial obstacles. To learn about the school, please visit www.rpmusic.org. I'm Thompson Egbo. I'm your host for today and your host for all of them. So it's great to be here with you. Past student, board member, teacher, and now your host for this evening in these web series. So thank you for joining all of us. As you may have noticed, I have a new background. I'm broadcasting from Carlswell Hall at Regent Park School of Music in the Daniel Spectrum location. It's nice to be back in this space. So today we have a lovely guest with us, someone who is familiar with the school, who has started his musical journey at the school, and someone who I've had the pleasure of getting to know and interact with. And so it is my pleasure to introduce FrancisGotHeat. This is going to be, I think, a really wonderful treat for everyone to get to know someone who has been doing some amazing things, and we're just going to get started. I think we have a video right now, so we're going to give you an intro video. Welcome, Francis. How's it going?
Man, thank you for having me, man. I'm good. I don't know where y'all found those old pictures from, man. I haven't seen those in probably like 12 years, man.
Probably since you took them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's cool looking at the Jazz always puts together these incredible videos, and we realized actually we have one of our past guests. You've done stuff for Cadence Weapon. How cool is that?
Oh man, yeah, no, I've seen it come up. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of like bringing it all together. So just for people at home, because everyone I think is at home or somewhere else. Where are you right now?
Currently, I'm back home in Toronto,
Oh, you're
but
back in Toronto.
yeah, but I do leave for LA again on Monday. So this is probably
Wow.
like the last thing I'm gonna do out in Toronto, this talk here.
Cool. How long are you gonna be in LA?
For a month, and then I'm gonna come back December for like Christmas time and all that, and then after that, it's back to LA again.
So what are you doing in LA that you can't do in Toronto?
Well, studio sessions. A lot of artists around the world love to go to LA just to work, just because of the vibe, the environment, and you know, and everyone's there, so it's a great place to network and build.
Awesome. The little sort of nerdy question, I guess, is where do you stay? Because I know there's a SoCan house there. Do you ever do that or?
I tried a SoCan house probably almost like 10 years ago now, and it was okay, but they definitely have upgraded their spots since then. But usually I just get an Airbnb or something. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, for people who don't know LA very well, what neighborhood you hanging out in?
North Hollywood. I really like North Hollywood. Like, there's a bunch of cool studios around there. It's like nice up and coming neighborhood, a lot of young people. So,
Okay, cool. So what's your day look like then? So I guess you're just in LA, you're back in Toronto for a little bit. Going back to LA, what would be a typical like day for you? Are you spending time, like I know you said you're networking, but are you spending most of your time at your spot working, creating, and then going out? Or how does the networking start? Do you have a bunch of meetings or sessions set up or?
um, this upcoming trip is a little bit different because usually I don't really like doing like meetings with like labels and all that stuff, but this time around I actually do plan on doing a couple one of those because it's like another like technical point, but like I'm out of my publishing deal, so I'm looking for new publishers. So that's when you got to do the meetings and stuff with people. And yeah, but normal day, I like to like make music when I'm with my friends in the studio and stuff. So like during the day, I'll just might like be at home working on some ideas, but then we always go to the studio at night, and that's when I do most of my creation.
So how do you find a studio? Do you have to like are you renting a studio? Like is it booked for you or are you what's the process? You mentioned there's a bunch of different studios that you might go to. Where
Mm-hmm.
do you like where do you start in terms of finding that?
Usually, if I'm doing a session for an artist or something, they'll usually have a studio booked. It's just common practice for like the artist to book the studio because it's their project and their budget. So yeah, don't be paying for other artist studios' time.
Yeah.
Um,
They're paying for it if they know it about or not, right?
yeah. So yeah, usually the artist has a studio, but if I'm just making beats for myself or whatever, then luckily enough my manager has a studio called Larrabee. Like he's a super like Grammy winning, world renowned like mixing engineer, so he has that facility available for me when I need it. So I'm lucky enough for that.
Awesome. Are you so if on this trip you're gonna be looking for labels, um, a potentially new publishing deal, we've done a few talks on kind of like who's on your team. If your deal is finished, are you not going back to the same publisher, or are they still in the running, or are you looking for something completely different? What is it you're looking for in the next, as you now have evolved? Is this what would also actually I should ask? Let me go backwards. Which number deal is this for you? Is this like the second one you're doing, or the third one you're doing?
Yeah, this would be the second one
This is the
for me.
second one.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that um, you liked or didn't like that you'll be looking to improve or make a sort of a better position for yourself for this next deal?
Yeah, definitely this first deal I learned a lot. So you definitely learn a lot of things from your first go around. So this time I'm definitely looking for like I guess a publisher or a situation that is that has like more opportunities, I would say,
Cool.
rather than the last one. Not saying they didn't do a lot for me, they definitely did, and I learned a lot, but now I feel like I'm more advanced in what I'm doing and I could do a lot more. And just look, honestly, I'm just looking for whatever else is out there. Because like, going back to my original publisher is still an option, but I just want to see what else is out there for me. Because what if someone else gives me an opportunity to start my own like sub-publishing label, and I could start signing other younger producers, you know? That'd be an amazing opportunity.
So when you say perfect, when you say opportunity, so is it partly being able to kind of now, set yourself up as like, your own brand, and then you've got your own artist, or also are you looking for someone who might introduce you to a broader range of artists to kind of work with and get your music out there?
I'm looking for, ideally, in a perfect world, I would get both, right? So that's why I'm going out to see what people are willing to offer, and to see what situation makes sense, and try to leverage my position off that.
Is it possible, or is there an advantage right now to going without a publisher?
You can. It's definitely possible. It's just a lot of work to chase down and collect all the money from all around the world.
Okay, so part of I guess their job is to now make sure that when your music is played in different places, someone is responsible for to making sure that you see the money from that and you collect.
Exactly. And yeah, like you give up a percentage, but you save a lot of time and all that stuff, and you make sure you get all your pennies that you earned.
Nice. Your current publisher, like you're coming to the end, are they just Canadian based? Were they national? Were they like Canadian and US based, or were they global, or is
they
that
they are global, but I signed to the US side of it.
was there a reason why you signed to the US as opposed to like another, or is it just kind of where you've been operating? Is it kind of
I like to do deals in the States, because a lot of the music that I like listening to and like doing are American artists, and usually the American labels and publishers, they have the connections to those American artists, rather than like let's say if I went with a Canadian publisher, their relationship might not be as strong with like the American side of things.
okay, cool. So it's like sort of that leverage piece of where
Yeah,
who are they connecting with?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's exciting. So is your publishing deal done? When's it end? Like, how does that even work? Is there like what's the date on it? Like, when do you need to hopefully have something in place? Is it for the new year or
Um, well, yeah, I'm officially like out. Like, so
okay?
when you sign your deal, there's like a terms you gotta meet depending on what you negotiate. So I've already met those. So yeah, I'm a free agent now.
Perfect. So what happens with the music that you create between now and the next deal? Are you just holding on to it till the next deal, or
Yeah, I would just be self-published till then, till my next deal.
would that go into the package of the new deal, or you keep
Yeah,
that out? Okay.
it would.
Awesome. So the that's cool because we've been looking at as we kind of been going through the talks, these different sort of ways of going about stuff. So if the publisher is kind of like now the next step you're going to kind of add to this piece, or you've had the piece but it's changing over right now, what would be your sort of core important as we would say maybe teammates in terms of how you're progressing through and making those decisions? Are other people, are their opinions kind of weighing in on some of these decisions as well? What is that team that you have around you currently doing and helping you with?
Yeah, so I have a management team of probably like 4 people, and like they help me on a lot of decisions. 3 of them are from Toronto. You know, Gavin from Remix Project. We got Trung and Jay. And then on the LA side, I have my manager Manny Mariquin, who's like been in the game for like 20 plus years. So whenever I have a question regarding like publishing and deals like that, I bring it to them. Jay is like really business oriented, so like he'll always break it down in a very business way, and I can understand it all. Like, hey, this doesn't make sense. I've done like 100 deals. This doesn't make sense. I'll be like, okay, thanks for letting me know. And so Manny's seen a lot of contracts too, so he knows what I should be seeing when it comes to all these deals and things as well. And then probably one of the most important pieces also is my lawyer. The lawyer is like so essential. I got a lawyer before I got a manager. Like, it's super essential.
Is your lawyer on the Canadian side or the American side?
Canadian side. I actually use Chris Taylor's firm still.
Still okay. So
Yeah.
Tomo, awesome. Yeah, Chris was on here as well. And what would they? Because the lawyer piece is actually a very interesting piece because it seems straightforward, but it isn't really straightforward. Like one of the things we learned when we had one of the lawyers in, and actually, Chris as well, which is that actually the lawyers can actually play a really good role, big role in kind of helping you find some of those other pieces that kind of need to be on your team. Did
100%.
you find that with Chris? Was he able to? Is that how you came to some of the other guys, or?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like Chris helped me out a whole bunch when I first started out. Like I met him when I was 16, and then he would just anything I needed, he'd just be like, "Hey, yeah, if anything comes out, just sign the contracts or just tell people to contact me. I'll take care of it for you." So whenever I needed something looked after or someone like used the beat, right? And then like they didn't pay me, I'd tell him, "Hey, this is what happened." And he'd be like, "Don't worry, I got you. I'll get you the money." And then often he would I didn't sign nothing. I was 16. He was doing it just to help me. And like he would help connect me with certain people. Like essentially like that's how I got my first placement with Trey Mission because Trey was signed to Chris's label too. And then
The Last Gang, or?
yeah, Last Gang.
Okay.
So he just started connecting me with a lot of people, connected me with like Nelly Furtado and stuff. And it was like, yeah, pulling a lot of strings. That's how I even got beats to like Drake in the first place, essentially.
Cool. Very, 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 very cool. Yeah, Chris is like he's in a lot of people's corner. He's a great guy to
Yeah, amazing
have,
guy.
have in your
That's like,
corner.
yeah, that's
Are
like
you,
one reason why I stay with his firm.
for sure? Are you considering Monarch? Are they one of the people you're looking at?
Definitely, I've definitely talked to them before, but I haven't sat down to meet with them, so
Yeah,
maybe that's something I'll do.
awesome.
But
So
we're always in conversation.
perfect. So question for you, because now you've been getting a lot of placements. I actually had a question because I remember once we had a conversation, like I want to say years ago, but I don't think it was that years ago, uh, where you were trying to get 21 placements before you were 21. Did you end up hitting that?
Yeah, I hit 21 before I turned 21. I think by the time I hit 21, I had like 28 or something like that.
Sweet. Can you explain to the students what a placement is and what that looks like?
To me, a placement like I had a lot of songs with friends that were out, but I wouldn't consider those placements. Like to me, like a placement was something on like released on a label or like with a major artist or something. So I considered that a placement. And yeah, and like one of my goals, like when I was 18, I had like zero placements, and then I made a goal to myself, like that birthday, like, hey, by the time I turn 21, I need 21 like songs out on like real labels, like real songs, not just like SoundCloud songs with my friends. And then yeah, I grinded and then we got there, bro.
So I mean, you mentioned Chris kind of helping open up some doors, but what's the process of, you've got a bunch of stuff, like you said, you've got some friends,
Mhm.
we've done the SoundCloud thing, but now how do we get to, I mean, to get to 21 is a big deal, but like, how do we even get to one? Like, what's the first placement?
The first placement I ever got on a label would be the Trade Mission one. That one was like a super random one. Like I said, Chris connected me with Trey's manager, and I met Trey and all that. And then they just needed one song for his album, and then they sent the song my way. Like, hey, we're looking for like something like that sounds huge, like like for a stadium or something. So I I was at the studio, and then I just was working on it for the whole day. I sent it back, and then they loved it. And then
What,
eventually the next week, I sat down with Trey and we just finished it.
oh, awesome. So what goes through your head though? And they're like, hey, we need something huge that, I guess like are they saying they want something that's like an anthem, or when they say stadium, like what are you thinking, or how are you approaching that?
Yeah, but usually when people do that, I ask them to send references. So like they'll be like, "Oh, we kind of want it to sound like this or like that," but I try not to like just rip it off exactly. It's more like you're trying to get the feeling for the sound and like just the feeling of the music and of the moment. That's more what I really try to capture with references. But I always ask for those just so like I don't completely like just steer off course.
Okay, cool. Do you ever do like, in jazz, like we would call it lifting. So we would try to lift other artists solos so that we could understand what they're thinking about with the improv and how they attack it. But I have some friends who are producers. I've done a little bit of myself. But do you ever do, like, I know some people call them sound alikes. I'm sure everybody has their own version of it, where you try to actually recreate, a beat or a song, just to
Yeah.
understand what they're doing, the layering. Like, is that a part? Was that a part of your processing, trying to get in sort of getting to where you are right now?
Yeah, I actually used to do that like a lot when I was younger, probably like when I was like 14, 15. Like I low-key used to have like a YouTube channel. I was like 13, 14, where I upload like a bunch of like remakes I used to make because like I loved like a lot of other people's like beats when I was listening to music, and I'd be like, damn, how did they make this? Like this sounds great. So I'd always try to remake it and like try to recreate the sound. I think that's a great way to like learn how to create songs and beats. Because then like you don't exactly know how they got it, the sound, but then you figure it out in your own way how to get that sound, which I think is a really cool learning process. But yeah, I used to remake a whole bunch of people's beats. Like I even remade like a Rich Kid beat at one point.
Awesome. So if there are production classes at RPSM, if you're what would be your sort of advice in terms of, hey, we're going to recreate a beat? Are you thinking more, I want to recreate the arrangement, I want to get the textures for the sound, like they're using a kick, how do I manipulate the kick to get what they have? What are you thinking of all of those things, or do you have a specific goal for each song when you're like, oh, I'm going to try and recreate this, or I'm interested in that arrangement, so that's what I'm going after for this one, or or vice versa?
I think like there's two factors to that. One is like depending on what you what you're trying to recreate and like what about that song you really like about it. So if like a song has a really dope melody, I'm gonna be focused on like the sounds and the melody to get it perfect. To be like, hey, how did he get this type of texture on that sound, or how did he turn this into that? How do I get this weird sound like that? I'll be focused on that more than the drums. But on the other side, it's like, but you're still learning. What are you trying to get better at? Like that's how I like to approach things. Like I'm gonna spend like a month working on the melodies, a month working on my drum game, whatever. So if I'm remaking a beat and I'm trying to work on my drums, like I'll just pick like the sickest beats with the craziest drums on it and like try to recreate that.
Okay, cool. Any tips for drum programming, because I know you've been pretty good at that?
Honestly, keep it. I like things simple, bro. One thing I learned over the years is keep it simple. Like people like to do a lot when they first start out. Like you like to fill up all the space, sometimes too much. But then I used to do that too, but I got so many artists telling me like, "Hey, bro, this is a dope beat, but there's no room for my vocals on it. Like, you gotta take this and that out." And plus, like, I came from like a real musical background. I was playing orchestra and all of that, so I was like basically making orchestral scores with like some drums on it. It was a lot.
Yeah, cool. How many instruments do you play?
Play well or just
Well,
play in general?
like, how many instruments did you kind of come up playing?
I started with piano, violin, saxophone, and drums.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Played as
all
many.
percussion. I play all
Yeah,
percussion, but yeah,
played as many as you could.
yeah, jack of all trades, master of none. So
Yeah. Oh, that's that. I love that. So question for you, like, coming up through like, obviously the early days at RPSM, I feel like you're there like when the school's like getting started. Obviously you have siblings. Well, not obviously, not everybody knows you had siblings as well that came to the school. What are some of the things that are still kind of, that you might have learned, that are still a part of your process now?
damn, it's hard to say. Well, I definitely use a lot of I guess the improvisation things that you taught me because it's how I come up with like melodies. like on my Twitch streams, I just literally just be riffing the whole time,
Cool.
doing my best Thompson imitation. But the jazz element has been huge in my production as far as like chords and things as well. Um, what else? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've learned a lot of instruments. Like the theory, I actually don't use too much. I
Yeah.
used to, but then it
Y-
used to put me in a box. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. When you
As
say
far as
when you say it put you in a box, did you are you saying if you find that it stifled, I wouldn't say stifled your creativity, but I know for me, one of the problems I've had is exactly what you said earlier about like, you put too much, you put
Mhm.
too much on the page, essentially, you put too much in the logic, like you've overproduced it or way too many melodies or whatnot. And I find that sometimes there's things that I'm used to that I go to all the time. And I feel like if they're not there, it's a little naked, but sometimes it actually needs to strip back. So
Mhm.
when you say that you found that the theory kind of got in the way, like, was it because you were overthinking it or you weren't allowing, like, what, actually, I shouldn't even ask, well, like, what was it?
Yeah, it was definitely I was thinking about the music that I was making too much. Like I would be like, okay, no, I gotta make this progression like this. It goes like this is the right way to do it. But then I'd hear a beat from like Wonder Girl or something, and then it'd be like a one weird note or like a weird pattern or something going on, and like, wait, that's not supposed to work, but why does it sound so good? You know? And then I started hearing that a lot more from like a lot of my favorite producers, and none of them even knew anything about music. They didn't even know how to count bars. They don't know what a quarter note is or nothing. I'm like, wow, maybe I should stop like really analyzing like, hey, you gotta go 4-5-1. You gotta use a diminished here. And I'm like, yo, if it sounds good, it sounds good. Like,
Yeah, I guess like working off of your intuition a little bit more.
yeah,
I know I hear that stuff like all the time. Well, especially in hip hop stuff where they throw melodies together and you're like, that's not even in the same key. Like,
mhm,
but again, like it works with whatever they're doing and they get the feeling there.
mhm,
The so question for you. So what, because just trying to bring it back, like it's really, for me, it's exciting just to kind of ones just see like the progress you've made, but like everything you've done, like where you've had your placements, to someone who's kind of, what's cool about your role is that it's not just, sometimes we're just used to seeing the person who's on stage, but seeing somebody who's kind of behind the scenes but still is creating some of our favorite music. So some of our favorite music isn't created necessarily by the person who's presenting it to us, and that's kind of an element that you bring to the stage. And I'm curious where, what kind of gets you, I know you kind of do the remix, but what kind of gets you thinking, hey, like how do I continue to pursue this, or how do you fall into it? Like I know for me sometimes, obviously I played piano for all of my life, but it wasn't really something I necessarily was like, oh, I'm gonna do music. It just, I sometimes really feel like I kind of fell into it. So
mhm.
was there, I wouldn't say a time where you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, or were there a couple of different opportunities or different things that started to open up kind of turn a light bulb on for
Mhm.
you?
I mean, I always loved music. That's the thing, man. I always loved music. Like even growing up, like my parents bought like this Yamaha keyboard, where it had like those keyboards with like a bunch of like random sounds, like 500 sounds, it'd be like a random drum kit and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So like I used to play around with that. There was like a 5-track recorder you could do on it. So I used to it was around the time I was taking like jazz lessons with you. So I would record like a bunch of chords and just improvise over top. So I was low key making beats at the time without knowing they were beats. So I was always like super creative and like think of melodies in my head. But then it wasn't one day in like the summer going to grade 9. Like one of my friends sent me a video of this producer named Ryan Leslie in the studio. And like he's a multi-instrumentalist too. Like he'll pick up a trumpet and just start playing it or whatever. Plays a bunch of keyboards, plays the drums, all of that. So I watched that video and then I'm like, wait a minute, yo, I could play all of those too. Like, let me try this real quick. Like, why am I not doing this right now? So I downloaded like a demo of like Mixcraft or something, and then I literally recreated the beat I just watched him make. I'm like, wow, yo, this is amazing. This is fun. Like, I want to do this. Like, after that first beat, like, I knew, like, this is what I got to do. Like, I love this.
That's super cool. That's good. Thank God for YouTube.
Yeah, thank God for YouTube. Imagine if I never seen that video.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, now you see that video, you create that first one. Why do you create the second one?
It was
What
addicting, man.
what comes after that? Like, did you find another video? You're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go create another one.
No, I tried making beats from scratch after that, and it was like horrible. Like, I didn't know about bars or loops, right? So like, let's say I had like a 3 minute beat. I'd play the piano for 3 minutes. No quantization. I'd play the drums for 3 minutes. Like, totally off beat, and then like the bass, and it was horrible. But it was hella fun, like super fun.
That's all. How do you learn how to, like, where do you start to get to, like, okay, you know what, I can play this in like 1 bar or 4 bars, loop it,
Yeah.
or not everything I play I need, like, what starts to kind of, what start to shape that a little bit?
Honestly, man, it was one of my older brothers who, like, he was watching me make a beat one day. He was like, "Yo, what are you doing? Why are you playing for 2 minutes? Like, just take the best 8 bars and use it over and over again." I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of genius, bro. Like, and then yeah, that's when I realized I could just use like a 4 8 bar loop. I don't gotta record for 4 minutes.
Well, so with all your placements, I'm curious, like, what, and this is not really a fair question, but I'm sure there's context to it because there's different reasons for each one. What would be one of your favorite beats and why, or like favorite kind of like experiences with like one of your placements? Like, what are a couple that kind of stick out, and what are the stories or experiences around the way they came together that make that something that you'll never forget how you made that one? Because now the placements are just starting to mount on each other.
I would say damn, like 4422 for sure, because that's like one of the first like original beats that I made that set it off. Like, even at the time I didn't know what it would do for me. It was actually probably one of the first beats that like a rapper ever like really took. um when I made that beat, it was probably like 2014. I was like graduating grade 12. Like, while I was still in high school, like Drake took the beat already, but I didn't know at the time it would come out years later. But that beat like set the vibe for like other songs that I've produced to come out. Like, um I have a song with Roy Woods called Jealousy that's kind of like the same vibe, but that vibe wouldn't exist if I didn't create the 40 40 22 beat. Um that's a really special beat for me because like I just made that in my mama's basement, and then years later it comes out on Drake's album. And like, yeah, a lot of people, I remember at the time, a lot of people in high school were like, "Yo, what are you doing with your life? Like, you need a backup plan," but only if they knew, you know?
Like, walk us through that. So you create whatever, it's, I don't want to say it's a throwaway, but at what point, like, how do you find out about it? Like, how do you find out that, hey, this is just like Drake has picked up this thing that I did, that not, I don't know how you felt about it, but like all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's something that that I created that somebody who everyone knows, is validating my work and really likes it. So who gives you the call or email? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I emailed Drake's manager because I had his contact, and then I sent over the beat, and then like he hit me back immediately like, "Yo, yeah, keep this on the side for us, like hold that beat." And then so I'm like, "Cool, I'll hold that on the side." Like, honestly, that beat's not going anywhere. I made that specifically for them because like low key at the time, they were asking me like specifically just for like interlude stuff, like no drums basically. Um like that exact vibe that I gave them. So it wasn't like I was gonna send it out anywhere. I low key even forgot about it because like they've taken other beats and things after that, and nothing happened to those either. And then randomly, 2017, man, I get an email again like, "Hey, do you still have this beat? We're gonna use it." And I'm like, "Damn,
So
hopefully I still got those files."
okay, cool. When did they take it then? So like, what was how long like how many years passed before?
Yeah, so 2014 they took it, 2017 it came out.
Oh, okay. 15, 16, 17. So 4 years later.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, obviously you said the beat wasn't going anywhere. You made it kind of with them in mind. But what if somebody came and like you're in the studio and you're just playing through stuff? You're like, oh, there's a back catalog.
Oh man.
And then 2016, somebody's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I like it. It's neat. Would you have still, I don't want to say would you have still remembered it, but what if you'd given that away?
Damn. I don't know, man. That would have been a tricky situation still. I don't know. I guess at that point, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to pull the beat from somebody, you know?
Yeah.
I would hate to do that though.
I remember, I don't know if you've seen the documentary on the Black Album, Jay-Z's Black Album.
Yeah, I've seen that.
There's a point where he's in the studio with Timberland and he's playing through the beats and you're like, oh, that beat's a Ludacris beat. Ludacris got one of Jay-Z's throwaway beats.
Yeah, so, no, I caught that too, bro. And it's crazy because like that Ludacris song came out like 8 years after.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So how many beats had you sent them at that time, and or how many beats do you find yourself, how much music, like in general, how much music do you find sending out? Not so much that like nothing happens, but clearly people are looking for things, what you send them may or may not be it. But what's kind of typical in terms of I wouldn't say the amount, but like just how that process goes? It's like, are you expecting something to come back, or are you just like, well, something may come, something may not?
With sending beats, it's like playing the lottery, bro. You never know what's gonna happen. The more you send, the more chances you have of hitting, I actually, a lot of my success is not even through sending beats. It's like being in the studio with people. So whenever I send beats, the amount of beats I send depends on who I'm sending to. If I'm sending directly to an artist, I probably only send 2 or 3 because they don't like opening links. I want the direct beats on their phone, like right now, I'm not gonna send them to a Dropbox. I'm sending to like an A&R or like a label. Then I could put together like a decent like 10-pack or something, because like they'll actually go open a link and go to the Dropbox or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the artist, man, it's all about, it all depends on who you have access to and who you're sending to.
What's the, like, I don't want to put anyone on blast, but like who has been your favorite from kind of just the hang like vibe to work with in the studio? Like who is somebody that's just like you want to just be buddies with the person? You might be buddies with them now, but like who have you enjoyed creating with, or who inspires like things out of you that you're not, like you weren't necessarily expecting, and then all of a sudden this music comes out?
Yeah, that's a tough question, man. Honestly, most artists and people I've met in the studio have been super, super cool. Like hella cool. Yeah, I guess one of the like sickest people I've met is like low-key like LMA. Like she's super chill.
Yeah.
The way she creates and everything is amazing, bro. Super talented, super chill. And yeah, like she watches a lot of basketball too, so I really like that too.
Nice. So what if you're in a studio with an artist, is it sort of like, hey, we're gonna show up, we've got an hour or two to do something, or is it, we show up, we've kind of got the day to kind of just hang out and see what kind of comes out of it, or is it a combination of both? Or
it depends on the situation. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Sometimes it's like, I like the second option better just because it's more relaxed, it's no pressure. But sometimes, the label will be like, hey, yeah, we booked a 4-hour session for you guys, like we need a song. I'm like, okay, well, now that you said it, it's probably not going to happen. That's how it usually turns out. Like, but with those sessions where it's like, hey, we just have a studio, like pull up and let's just have fun, like those are always the best sessions.
Are you working with songwriters at all? So I know that there's songwriting teams where it's like 4 or 5 people, maybe sometimes get into a room and do stuff. Are you doing that as well, or do you find yourself working with, more often not working directly with the artist, or also working with teams?
Yeah, definitely always working with songwriters, because even sometimes I'll do sessions with the artist and the songwriter, because I do like to be involved in the writing process too. But yeah, songwriters are like super key to getting like placements these days, because everyone's always looking for writing, man. If you come up with a fire like hook, they're always gonna take it.
Nice. Is that melody and lyric, or
Both ideally, but some artists like to rewrite their stuff, so some of them are more melody focused. But you definitely want a dope melody and dope writing.
great? The so where I would ask a question like obviously like you've been spending time a lot in the hip hop sort of domain. Right now, do you find where your influence is coming from though? Are they, I think there's, one of the things I've learned listening to hip hop is that there's a lot of influences from a lot of different things, whether like of all kinds of music, not just like, North American world music, like things have just been thrown in. So if you're looking for, different melodies, do you find yourself listening to music from all over the world? Do you find yourself, more being kind of a sort of a crates guy, like digging in for old stuff? Like where do you, or is it just wherever? Like
I do a lot of my digging on like YouTube actually. I'll just listen to like old 70s, like 80s, like synth music, or like old movie scores and stuff like that. To and like they have a really lot of dope just sounds, like the sounds they use, the textures they have, and just like really cool melodies. And I like to listen to those just to like catch a vibe, and it inspires me a lot because like they didn't have a lot of tools back then, but they manipulated like the sounds in so many different creative ways, like that even today like we try to recreate. So it's like this is timeless music. Like let's try to get back to that.
yeah. What would you say is kind of like the most not out there or reference or inspiration, but what would be an example of something that might not have been something you gravitated to or that took but seemed to work well with what you're doing, that might have been outside of just kind of where you would normally be spending your time?
Like a song I've done, or like
uh either a song you've done or the reference itself, like just
there's a song called I think it's called Driving Down in LA by Ezra Furman. It's a cool record. I remember hearing it on Netflix. I'm like, wow, this is a dope sound. I've never really done anything like it, but it actually did inspire me to make a pretty cool song that's not out yet, actually. But
cool.
yeah,
Once you get
maybe
that publishing.
one day.
That's a no for sure. The so the what you've played a bunch of different instruments in terms of, and like with the work, the music you're doing, texture is a big component. Where would you say, are you, I wouldn't say necessarily thinking about all the instruments you've played in terms of when you're creating textures, but what drives sometimes what the atmosphere, the texture, like the colors that you're trying to create?
Yeah, with like textures and stuff, man. I'll I'll, I'll use like the most random thing, because I like with textures like little ear candy. Like you don't notice it, but it adds so much to the song. So like it could literally be anything, man. I will use my iPhone and voice note the most random thing. I'll tap a cup or something just to get like a random sound, and you just blend it into the beat. Because like I like adding like super random ear candy no one ever expects.
All right. Have you created like your own library of stuff like that, where you just that you have sort of your toolbox, like the Francis toolbox of like, here's the stuff that's kind of my sort of my signature. It's kind of faint, so you don't really see it or notice it, but I know that it's there.
I actually have not put like everything in a folder. I have a bunch of like voice notes on my actual phone, but yeah, everything on my computer is like not so well organized. I'm not gonna lie. So I have a bunch of pieces everywhere.
Nice. Well, you need to organize them. I just went
Yeah.
to Greece last month, and I came back and somebody asked me to send them pictures, and I erased all the pictures somehow. I don't know
Oh
what
wow.
happened. I think
Damn.
I thought I threw them on my Dropbox, but it has to I guess download. So I hadn't downloaded it all, but then I deleted it on my phone before all that had happened.
Damn.
I'm kind of disappointed in myself.
It happens, bro.
Yeah, it's kind of all I got to say about that. Yeah, it is. Anyways, we wanted to I wanted to actually dive a little bit in. We know potentially Rich Kid's gonna maybe join us just to kind of shed some light, but I think you're I want to say the closest to what kids from RPSM are going through, but essentially like there are many different ways to be a part of the industry, and I think that's been one of our biggest the biggest things we want to just kind of like highlight about these talks with various people that we're talking about. One of the things we've never covered or we hadn't gotten to yet and is sort of remix and some of the other possibilities of other places to really take the learning further, find new communities to be a part of. And I'm just curious for you, what that kind of, the experience at Remix, I think with school, a lot of times people say it's the people you meet, things like that. I'd love to kind of dive into just how you stumble and how you find the Remix project.
Yeah, the Remix project, man, that place is amazing. So how I even found out about Remix is Rich Kid was working at like this studio at like Ossington for like the community out there. And then my bro found out about it. He told me that, let's pull up on this guy that he produced for Drake, like let's show him some beats, whatever. So I pulled up on Rich Kid. I played him some beats like in the middle of his session. Like and then he was like, yo, this is actually like pretty good. Like, yo, you should check out this program called Remix. So I went and I checked it out. And then they told me to apply, so I did. At the time, I was like 14, and then I did the whole interview thing, and then I finally got in. And man, it was a great place. It's probably the first time I ever been in like a real studio. First time I actually got like studio time for myself or anything like that. Gave me a place to work, go after school every day, just to spend hours just to create. Like I never had an opportunity or a space like that before in my life.
How old do you have to be to join Remix?
They say 15 to 20, 22, I think. But yeah, I was 14, but I was like, yo, I'm gonna try. They told me to try anyways, because you never know.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, I got in, so.
Cool. How's the program structure? Was it like once a week you went there? Is it sort of similar to if you're coming to RPSM for lessons? Like how often are you going in and getting instruction? And actually, what are you also getting instruction in?
Me, I went every day. They require 10 hours a week from their participants, but I went every day. But you do have one studio slot booked for you a week, so you have one dedicated spot a week, but there's also like production room, which like I took over. I was in every day. But as far as like instruction, they had a bunch of classes, whether it be like they'd have SoCan come in, do a demonstration, talk about performance royalties and things like that. Or they have like TD come in, talk about money and things like that. They have a bunch of cool workshops, and they have like some A&Rs and DJs and things like that come in and do talks. We had Young Guru come in one time. I actually met Ryan Leslie there one time.
Cool.
Which was like amazing. He was like my idol at the time.
Did you get to play your beat for him?
No, I didn't, but he invited me to like his sound check and his show, because like I was underage, I couldn't go to the actual show. So I got to see the sound check and all that. I gave him a USB of my music. I don't think he listened to it, but we're connected now though, which is cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The what are some of the things that you grabbed you learned in that program? Like other than, so like obviously they had it was well rounded in terms of what it takes to kind of be an artist, and like some of the things you should think about that we don't often think about. So like the money, like you said, the royalties, your financial literacy. But in terms of what was the lane that you were in? So you're producing. Were they giving you lessons? Because you now are already starting to create your own beats. are you changing like what tools you're using or programs you're using?
No, we didn't really have like lessons like sit down here, we're gonna teach you how to make a beat. It's like more of a program like, hey, you have a foundation, let's build upon that. So luckily enough, me and Wonder Girl were actually in the same round and like we're the same age and we knew each other prior to going to the program. So it was like an amazing spot for us just to link up. Like I'm from Regent, she was from Saga. Like Remix was in like literally the middle of us because it was in like Liberty Village. So we would just link up after school and just like learn off each other essentially. I, I do a lot of melodies and stuff. She'd pick up a little bit from me, and I learned a lot about drums and stuff from her. So it was just like us teaching each other and just getting better. Because like with production, the more hours and the more beats you make, the better you just get.
Yeah, for sure. Like with anything, you got to just
Yeah.
keep doing it. Oh, that's awesome. Was it a year long how long is the program run?
When I did it, it was 6 months, but now it's 9 months, I believe.
9 months? Okay. Very, very cool. I know Jasper put the website in the chat for people who are interested in going there. So
yeah,
you've come by the school to kind of do kind of help us show some of the stuff you're doing. Are you finding time to like, do you have people that you're mentoring now? Do you have artists that you're kind of like trying to groom? I know you mentioned earlier at the talk about potentially kind of creating your own label to have people under that, which is kind of a path a lot of people take after they've kind of gotten established themselves. Are you currently doing that, or is that stuff you're now sort of just kind of laying the groundwork to be able to do?
I wouldn't say like I'm mentoring anybody because like I don't think like I'm teaching people a lot of things. I just help them out where I can, and like work with them and stuff like that. But there's definitely a lot of super young talented producers in this city, and even like a couple that I've met online through my Twitch too. And yeah, I'm always looking for writers to work with. I've tried developing a few artists. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But that's always the thing I'm looking for, because ultimately that's how like you really really break out as a producer. You just find an artist and you lock in with them, and then if it goes well, man, you're out of here.
Yeah. Have you found that your Twitch, because you have a Twitch channel, have you found that that's been a great place to, meet people, but also kind of really hone in on on your skills, and because now you have a platform to kind of, share the information?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it's a great place to meet people and also like develop a lot of skills for myself too. Like, I'm not a really like talkative person. Like, I'm not out here just approaching people and talking to them. I'm not the type of guy, but I wouldn't say I'm like shy either. But Twitch makes it a point for me to like go and actually like interact with my chat and just talk to them. Because normally I probably wouldn't do that if I was in a room full of people.
Are you fine? Well, I find that you've come, I wouldn't say come out of your shell, but you're definitely, yeah, maybe I would say you come out of your shell a little bit. Do you find that having the music allows, I mean, you have something to talk about, like it's now, it's different. I think it's different for people. Sometimes people are shy, but maybe they don't feel like they have anything to offer. Like I imagine people are coming up to you because one, you've been successful, so clearly we're at a place where it's like, everything that Francis touches, turns to gold. So you're in that place where people want to be like, hey, I'd love to hopefully, just get some of that. Do you find that that's kind of allowed you to build your own kind of community around yourself?
Yeah, definitely for sure. Like, I always tell people like my channel is probably not for everybody because I'm not like super technical with it, but I've definitely formed like a great community just streaming online. Like I'm a really like sarcastic guy, a lot of sarcastic humor on my stream. It's not for everybody, but hey, but the people that I do have in my community, man, they get it. It's super lit. I'm super appreciative of like everybody that like likes my music and tunes in.
Well, you'll have to help me out because I feel like I'm an old man now, but I downloaded the Twitch on my app. No, I downloaded the app Twitch on my phone. I'm not that old to be sounding like that. But anyways, I'm still trying to figure it out. So I got you. I think I'm following you or subscribed, but
Yeah.
now it's got some weird coin thing. And I looked at it for about half a second, which I feel like now I got to not do, because now I feel like I'm starting to turn into an old man where it's like I couldn't figure it out in like the split second. So I put it down. For people who aren't on Twitch, how do you like what is the platform? Like how do you use it, or what are people using it for? How are you using it?
Yeah, so it's a free platform, so you can watch like streams for free, like the whole coins and all that stuff. Like that's like you got to pay. So like you could like tip people if you like their content or whatever, but you don't have to do that. But like Twitch, man, you can stream anything. It was most known for like streaming games and stuff. Like people go on there play like Call of Duty or whatever, stream with their friends. But since the pandemic started, there's been a huge rise in the music community. So producers like myself or like T Minus or like Kenny Beast or whatever will go on and we'll stream our process. Like you can literally see everything we're doing as we're making a beat. And like I don't know how about everyone else's stream, but my stream, like whatever I do on my stream is exactly what I do in the studio. It's not like it's a gimmick where I'm hiding like what I'm doing. Like I show everything on my screen.
Okay. All right. So Jasper put in watching the rebroadcast requires subscriptions. Okay.
Yes, that
Like a
is
live
true
recording.
if they are enabled. Personally, on my stream, I don't have them enabled just because a couple like terms of service things you can't play copyrighted music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right. Maybe that was the problem I was running into. So I got to make sure when I get onto Twitch,
yeah,
I'm watching it in the moment, and then everything will be okay.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know what difficulties you were having with Twitch, but yeah, definitely you don't need to be buying coins or anything. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
Actually, I have a question for you, Francis. How you like meet with Drake ever?
No, I haven't been in the studio with him before, but maybe one day, you know.
The question from Eddie was what was it like being in the studio with Drake? But I guess you haven't been in the studio. But that's actually not uncommon though, right? Definitely some of these
not at all.
You know, people sending him probably beats and stuff from all over the world, not just like North America. So you probably can't get in the room with everyone.
Yeah, especially him. He's like the biggest artist in the world. You know, most high in demand. There's like I hardly ever see him in the studio with other producers like that, other than like his own team and stuff. So
yeah,
I haven't gotten that session yet, but one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days to kind of do that.
Yeah, next album.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like honestly, it's only yet, right? So, I have a question for you, just because, man, it's hard sometimes to, everybody's doing their own thing. You're learning your instruments, and I'd say people are trying to figure out what their path is. I would hesitate in encouraging people to try and find their path, as opposed to kind of figuring out what they're happy doing, where they're like, what makes them happiest, like I would say actually one of the things that's been, and I mentioned this in the last talk, one of the things that's come ringing true with, I think, really the majority of our guests, is that they're big fans of what they're doing. They're big nerds of kind of, I say that in a very like fun way, of just what it is that is now their domain. And so, I think I'd be kind of encouraging of just like what excites you the most, what aspect of it, and like don't be shy about if it's only like this one little piece. But if you had not necessarily advice, but like if you were saying, speaking to a kid at RPSM who's just like, man, I really like music, I don't know where I'm going to land, maybe feeling like they need to even start focusing on something. You clearly have played a bunch of different instruments, and done various things before that, this became your thing. What would you suggest, or what piece of advice would you just be like, what, like, here's something you could consider, or this might be a piece of it?
Yeah, I actually did go through that a little bit, probably when I was like 11 or 12, because like I always loved music, and like creativity and creation, but I never knew what to do. So I actually like did try a bunch of things. Like I tried DJing at one point when I was super young. Could not catch the beat to save my life. Um, and that's how like I essentially like got in like to like the music production side. But even with that now, man, like you could even do that. There's so many ways to be a music producer now, because like traditionally, like people that only played instruments that made like that make quote unquote samples, what we call them now, or melodies, would only be credited as like paid musicians or like just a writer, or but now you get credit as producers, so you don't necessarily have to focus on making the whole beat. You just got to really like be really really good at like some melodies or like some drums, and you could still like this industry, there's so many jobs you could do.
Yeah.
Like maybe you just have a good ear for music, you could be an A&R, or maybe you're just great at writing, you could be a writer.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about like you just create the drums. I didn't even realize there are people that literally only did all they did was drum like programming, like that was their piece. And you'll see a couple of different producers now on one tune, as opposed to whereas people might think of like one producer, but now in many of the sort of pop world, you're seeing different pieces of the music being pieced together by different people from various places. So
yeah, because I kind of had like an issue when I was younger. Like obviously my melodies were stronger than my drums, and I eventually worked on my drums. But if you're in that situation, like don't just be like, hey, like my drums are whack, I'm gonna quit. Like you should like embrace like, hey, I got really good melodies, let me double down and I'm gonna be the sickest melody maker out here. That's a real career path, like, and people do
yeah,
extremely well doing that too.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
get to hang out in LA doing that. I know Richard still may join us, but because we have some time, I was wondering if we could open up the floor for some questions. We have some RPSM Youth Committee members who are joining us this evening. And for those who are unfamiliar with the Youth Committee, it is a committee-wide youth group from young leaders of high school age. They meet virtually every week at this time on Thursday, 7 to 8. So, and engage in social activities, discussions, educational workshops like this one, and leadership development. Are there any questions from youth committee audiences? I know Eddie's, you've already asked a question. I definitely want to make sure that we open up the floor to anybody who's got like any questions for Francis about just kind of maybe his time at RPSM, or what he's how he's bridged what you guys are doing into where he is. And because for me this is really exciting, like I mentioned before, which is just kind of just getting to see part of the journey, because like clearly you're still on it. Like it's not even I think you're still at the beginning of it, so that's what's even more cool because of everything that you've accomplished at this point. But it'd be great to, if there's any of the RPSM committee members or anybody in the audience, feel free to put it either in the chat or just jump in.
Okay, I see one. Is there an artist that you haven't worked with that you would like to produce music with in the future? Yeah, no, definitely. Kendrick is definitely on that list. Nas as well. Nas is probably my favorite rapper. Um, yeah, and Pharrell too. Yeah,
Cool.
I
Took me a
always say
while to
if
get
like
into Nas for some reason.
really,
Yeah. Like it's only like the last couple of years, well, maybe the last decade, but for sure I was like definitely of the Jay-Z skew, and then started listening back to stuff. I was like, oh, definitely he's slept on by me.
yeah, he has some questionable, beat selection, but as a rapper, man, he's amazing.
Francis, what about a solo project with a bunch of different vocalists?
Yeah, that's always something I've always wanted to do, but with COVID happening in the recent years, man, it definitely has slowed down the process of me getting to it. 'Cause a lot of my work has to do with like connecting with the artists in the studio and like building that relationship. But yeah,
Francis,
soon.
I was wondering, I remember in 2014 when you were like staying up all night producing beats, and it struck me how hard you work at what you do that day that we met. I remember it. It's like, can you explain that to the group, like how hard you work? Because I have a feeling maybe we take it for granted, but I have a feeling you work really hard.
I don't know. I don't feel
I don't know
like
how
it.
you talk about it, but
I don't know. I don't feel like I work that hard, but man, I just there's a certain hunger you have when you really want something, you know.
mhm.
And at the time, like you know, I had nothing to my name. I didn't even have money. I had nothing. I'm just trying to make it. So when you're that hungry, man, you just work hard. You have nothing else to do. You just want to make it. That's a different type of drive. You know what I mean? Can't be duplicated. That's a different type of hunger. Like I just really want. I knew I was good enough to be here. It was just a matter of time and everything. So I just kept working, man. I was. You got to be super confident in yourself to make it.
You still pulling those all-nighters?
I'm more of a daytime uh producer now. I don't really like doing the whole nighttime producing too much anymore. But when I'm in LA, like I'll be up till like 7 a.m. with the artists and stuff.
Amazing. Amazing. And my last question for you, David French was here at the beginning, your teacher, and
Mhm.
Tamla's teacher, and a few others here. And I just wondered, like, you also were studying at Dixon Hall while you were at RPSM, while you were
Yeah.
at Remix. It's just like I keep thinking about how diverse your education was and how curious you were to gain
Yeah.
knowledge. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, like with me, like I was always interested in playing a bunch of things. Like I like the trumpet, I like the saxophone, I like the drums. So you know, like I always like to try everything once. Like I've even tried playing the harp before, like the most random things.
Mhm.
I think yeah, because you never know how things will sound and things like that. I always loved um the sound of everything. And yeah, man, I would have taken all those lessons at RPSM, but I was taking too many instruments. Because like I can only take three at a time. I'm like, okay, let me go
Yeah,
over to
yeah,
Dixon Hall then.
yeah. I need more.
Yeah,
We're super proud of you and keep up the great
yeah,
work, friend.
yeah. I guess I'm just really fascinated with sounds and learning. You know, how does this work? How does
Yeah,
that work?
yeah. Thanks.
Where, yeah, no problem. Where could I send you my beats for feedback or a collab? Well, if you want, you could send it. I do that on my Twitch every week, or you can email it to me. But it might take me a minute to get back to it. I'll type in my email in the comments. Here you go. Yeah, send like 3 beats or something.
Where so question actually about beats, we talked about it earlier. SoundCloud, is SoundCloud still a good place to kind of showcase your music? Like where would you suggest people right now if they're creating beats, samples, like any like orchestrations or whatnot, and they want it to live in the place where people can easily access it and they can send it, where would you suggest? Does SoundCloud still have that weight, or would you suggest a different place now?
I haven't been on SoundCloud in a couple of years, but my thoughts on things like that is well, if they have no budget, they're just trying to get it on a bunch of free sites, like if they're just trying to sell beats, you could honestly, I would say post it wherever you can. Like YouTube is actually still the biggest place where people find beats. Like when people need beats, they still go on YouTube and type in like Drake type beat and stuff. So that's still the biggest market. You want to hit everywhere you can, whether it's BeatStars or whatever. Like whatever is free you can access, you want to get in on, because the more opportunities you have to get eyes on your stuff, that's another shot you have to make it. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. There's 1,300 songs uploaded on Spotify every like minute. So imagine how many beats are being uploaded every day, you know?
No, I never knew that. 1,300, huh?
How did I balance school and music? Um, should I give like the right answer or like the true answer? Honestly, I'm not gonna lie though, for me it was quite easy. I'm not one of those students to like study or do a project or anything. I was kind of lucky enough to just like go to school, show up and like do great at it. So I just spent all my time on music.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I was
So
the
yeah,
opposite.
I don't really know. And yeah. And I kind of dedicated to my myself to music once like I found out about him. Like, yeah, I'm not going to school. I'm not going to university. I was probably 14 when I made that decision. Like, I'm doing music. So I didn't really care too much about school at the time. Not saying you shouldn't, because definitely, you know, finish high school, all of that. So
Speaking of education, you were talking earlier at the very beginning about a lot of the music industry stuff. We started with publishing and all that. Where did you get all that information, especially being in the industry really, really young?
a lot of the questions that I had, like I just asked my lawyers, and you know, they'd break it down. They always break it down to you very simple terms, because you don't want to sign anything you don't understand, you know. That's the worst thing you could do to yourself. And honestly, a lot of it, the things I learned about the publishing game happened when I was in the publishing game. Yeah, a lot of the things you want to look out for, or things like that, you learn once you're in it, because then you realize, hey, they're not doing this for me, they're not doing that for me. What's the law firm and lawyer you used? I'll put it in the chat. Tom L. Lawyers. All right, sick. Any more questions or?
Let's embrace this. This is a nice moment of just
Of silence.
not one for silence. That's why I got in.
You are when it's the so
Oh, Thompson's having Carswell Wi-Fi issues.
no,
that tracks.
Jess, did we have one more video, or was that supposed to be for the end?
Just for the end, just our closing.
Oh, it's just for the closing. All right. Well, I ruined that surprise.
It's not much of a surprise.
Well, you know what? I think that's a great place for us to kind of just sign off and just thank you so much, Francis, for like being here, giving us some of the insights. We definitely, I think, would love to have you on a future talk. It actually would be kind of cool if we went through like your music. It was great to kind of just, you know, I'd say reintroduce you to the team, or sort of the school and students, so they know who you are, but also can kind of see you're not that far off from where.
Yeah.
And sorry, Eddie, you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah. Thank you, fans, for having us. Yeah.
Thank you for coming through, bro. Appreciate you.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's great. And so, you know, we hope to we're looking forward to it, because I think it'd be great just to like go through kind of that process. And you know, there are songwriters amongst the kids, and that would be fun to do that. So I just want to say another thanks to Simone and Tamla from the youth committee for supporting this event. Like always, we want to thank Jasper and Stephanie for bringing the series to life. And please check back for our YouTube channel as Every Little Voice podcast for the past RPSM Talks recordings. And make sure you RSVP for the next talk happening on November 25th at 7 p.m.
The next time I come on here, I could definitely like break down a couple of tracks for you guys. You know, go break down my projects and stuff. So
yeah, well, we thank you for committing already to that. And
that's super late, man. I always love doing that. People find it very informative. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it'd be awesome, and we can screen share and do some stuff. Great. Well, I'm Thompson Eggbegwell. This concludes our 7th installment of RPSM Talks. we will leave you with an OVO and Toronto Raptors collaboration called Welcome to Toronto from 2 years ago that Francis was featured in. So thank you, everybody, for joining us.
From time, we like kings on queen and like queens on king. It's home. It's battling the cutting cold with the heat from a jerk drum. It's riding the RT to the heart of the city. From east or west, we walk on coals with no stutter in our step. And in the harshest winter, a flame is always lit. We'll quit when it's dark. We don't drop out until that shot drops in. Every missed three, every broken beat, it's a middle finger to failure. It's 0 to 100. The basement beats to the top of the chart. An empty canvas to a monument pouring passion. It's a broken rim and chain link to a red and gold banner. In this city, it's strength in numbers. And if you ain't running with us, run from us. This is Toronto. Welcome home, fam.